But here basically we see from the other side, you can see the Etna village in the background.
How was it? Was it similar to your experience in Salona?
I jumped a bit, I must say. I was with my daughter and she was laughing, because it came out from the side. So of course you get a little bit scared when a snake is there, but of course it didn't do anything, so it was harmless. It's like a flying tree almost. Amazing. Hi everyone, today I'm visiting National Park Krka Waterfalls, the second most popular national park in Croatia. As you will see from the footage, it's just a total amazing place. I've been here, I cannot tell, I have no clue how many times, at least 10, probably 15. I visited all 4 seasons. No matter when you go here, I guarantee you will enjoy the place. So please follow me around in National Park Krka Waterfalls. So now we're getting here. We're being chased by a GLS guy. Now we're going to go over here. I think here's the entrance to the parking. Super. Long walk, 50-60 meters, and now we are in front of this glass building. As you can see, it says on the side National Park Krka. This is basically the place you go to get your tickets. You can, of course, also, they are meanwhile selling the tickets online if you don't want to hassle with this. But it's very easy here. Go into the ticket office. You can also get a map. So you kind of have a feeling when you go around in the park what you see. And here behind us, or to the right of me, all the way down, you have a lot of what you call booths, selling lots of stuff, of course, now because we are in the fall, end of fall. And none of this is open, but in the summer all of this would be, of course, available to you when you come here. Good, we will go and fix the ticket and then we will get down to the boat. We secured our tickets. It seems the park is not overrun today, so no problem with getting in. And over here on my right, you can see the boats, which we are going to go on in a few minutes. Our departure time is 9 o'clock and it's a little before 9 now. So we are basically just waiting until we can get on the boat. And then we're going to sail up to Skradinski Buk, and from there we will walk around the park. So maybe just a little bit info. Skradin is a very nice small coastal town. You have, when you go around the corner here, you have a marina up here. You have a lot of coffee bars, restaurants. You can walk around in the city, which is quite neat, small city. And a little bit up behind, you have actually an old fortress, an old ruin of a fortress, which is also worth visiting. If you anyway have some spare time waiting for the boat, maybe in the summer the boats are quite full, although they have extra boats. But just, this is still a nice place to hang out for lunch, for coffee, whatever you want. Anyway, let's go over and see if we can get on the boats. Yeah, okay. We're gonna wait here till they allow us on the boat. Okay, we are ready to go on. Thank you. Thank you.
That boat?
Yes. So the second one, yeah. So it seems we are sailing with Gudurza. When I came here the first time, there was only one pier. So this is all something they made new over the years. It used to be over where you see the wooden ship. That used to be where you got on the boat, but they built all this additionally. So simply you can, I guess it's simply because more and more people are going to the park. I think now it's somewhere around 650,000 a year. So will we manage to sit outside, or is it going to be too cold? Ah. I'm wondering, because this sounds like a regular engine. And I remember some years ago the provision that they wanted to have electrical engines.
Like the
But maybe they probably only have them on when you sail from Skradinski Buk up to Visovac and on the lakes up there. I would guess that. So now we are on the way with the boat from Skradin to Skradinski Buk. So maybe I will just give you a little bit of information about the entrance prices to Kirka when we are sailing. Now today we are in the absolute low season, today when we are filming this, so I paid €7 to enter the park for an adult ticket. If you are entering in the main season, which is July and August and September, I think also, it's €40, and if you are in the shoulder seasons, the months around, I think it's €20 or €23. But anyway, I'm gonna blend in all the prices on the screen, and I'm also gonna leave all the information on the website. But maybe a few additional stuff. There's of course for kids, etc., students, for pensioners, there's some discounts, and there's also options to get group discounts if you announce the group some day before. So all of this, check that out in detail. But the most interesting part, I think, is actually if you are in Croatia for a longer period, if you're an expat, or if you're a digital nomad, or you just visit Croatia multiple times a year in this region, you should really consider basically signing up for the Friends of Kirka National Park. It costs, if you live anywhere else in Croatia, then Šibenik is a special case. I'm not going to mention that because probably all the people who lives here knows about that. But if you live anywhere else in Croatia and want to visit Kirka National Park multiple times in a year, and you sign up for the Friends of Kirka, you basically pay only €50, and then you can visit as many times as you want during the year. If you're living outside of Croatia but come here often, it's €10 more, and you can still do the same. So I think this is definitely something to offer, or to consider also, just to support the national park, make sure we can maintain this fantastic nature spot. So this was a little bit about the prices. I think in any case, when you see how beautiful the park is, it's really worth contributing to maintaining this place. There's of course, I'll explain about that later. The entrance tickets we took now basically allows us to visit anywhere in the park. So it's not only this part with Skradinski Buk here. There's other parts of the park which is not so well known, which we are also gonna show you parts of today. These are also included in the entrance tickets. The only thing which is not included is there's some additional boat trips you can do inside the park. And if you want to do these boat trips, you need to pay them additional. So that was a bit more about the prices. If I think of something, I will mention it later in the video. Anyway, as I said, all information we're going to add to the website, so you can always check it there and find the latest information about prices and stuff, which is good to know when visiting Kirka. Of course, it might look tempting, but jumping in the water from the bridge is definitely prohibited. So restrain from that. When we in Skradin, there's a few small beaches. So if you want to swim when you're here, that's the place where you can do it. Where we're gonna get up to Skradinski Buk, there's no swimming allowed. It used to be the case. I've been swimming up there many years back, but that's not allowed anymore. But if you go further up the Kirka River, further up the national park, there's various places where you can swim, but below the main waterfall where it used to be swimming, where you might see photos on the internet, that's not. You see the road up here with the fence on the left side, basically. Cars can go that way down, but I don't think they allow it, or they don't allow it for any regular visitors. I think it's mostly for much of the staff working inside the park. They can use this to get down closer to Skradinski Buk. And then maybe also, I would assume, but I can't guarantee because I don't know exactly, but I would assume also people who have problems with walking, who wants to see Skradinski Buk, this might be the place where you can go in and drive up to a park which is very close to Skradinski Buk. And of course we are in the nature. What does that mean, nature? It means there's wildlife, you know, you see there's birds around, huge amount of birds here, but there's of course other animals. So walking on this road, this was the only time I've seen a snake up here.
How was it? Was it similar to your experience in Salona?
I jumped a bit, I must say, you know, I was with my daughter and she was laughing, you know, because it came out from the side. So of course you get a little bit scared when a snake is there, but of course it didn't do anything, so it was harmless. Yeah, and the Kurga River is actually not that long. It's basically, most of the Kurga River is actually the national park. So the river has its source, I think 3.5 kilometers from the city of Knin. And basically on the other side of the city, basically already the national park starts. So the majority of the Kurga River is actually Kurga National Park. So I think it's about 70 kilometers in total, and 50 of them, roughly 50, are within the borders of the national park. And the source is actually 3 sources. There's 3 streams or 3 places where the water comes out from the mountain below the Dinara Mountains. And one of them is supplying around 80 to 90% of the water, one 5 to 10, and one only a few percent. And then basically there's another river, Krcic River, which flows into Kurga at that place, and there's a waterfall of 20, which is 25 meter high. Especially in the winter or spring, it's very interesting to see, because then there's a lot of water. Of course, when you had a long dry period, it actually dries out in some parts up there. But the altitude of the source is around 225 meters, and now we are basically in altitude 0, sea level. So basically on the 50 kilometers, Skradinski Bug is around 50 kilometers from the source. So on these 50 kilometers, basically the river loses 225 kilometers in altitude, which is why of course you have all the waterfalls. So now we are closing up and we are getting up to the place where we get off the boat, which is also where you get on the boat if you are going back this way. It's basically the trip is 20 minutes, yeah. And of course, now with jacket, it's a bit fresher, not as nice as sailing here when the weather is way warmer. And I see 2 people have been patiently waiting on our arrival. Ah, that's the employees of the park. Well, let's get down so we can get off the boat. Adios. And you have a nice sign, you know, telling you when the boat returns, or maybe remember to check it. It's also there's also information about that. I think on the map you get handed out. Just in case you haven't read up on it before, you know some of the stuff which is not allowed here. As I said on the trip out here with the boat, no swimming. Although there's lots of fish, you will have to buy the lunch in the restaurant because fishing is not allowed. And of course the obvious one, you know, don't pick the plants here, don't throw your trash. There's plenty of garbage bins around the park. And of course, no open flames. And if you want to go camping, inside the park is not the place. There's plenty of small campsites in the area around. So you can bring your tent to Kurga, but you cannot camp inside here, but outside. And of course also, you can't, or it also makes no sense, you can't drive around inside the park on a bicycle. I mean, it should be obvious, but you have places over here, if you actually go up here with a bicycle, where you can leave the bicycle and have a walk around the park. it's also not nice driving with a bicycle around, trust me. Cannot believe since the first time I came here, how nicely they renovated all these houses here. It just looks amazing today. In the summer here, restaurant filled with people. And here you can catch your own food. Probably this is only here at this time of the year. No, basically I usually always, or when I go here with the family, we usually basically make some sandwiches, have a backpack with us. Today we also made sandwiches, we left them in the car because it's not that warm. But yeah, we usually bring our own food. You can of course also buy it here. But if you're a family with kids, you need to pay the entrance tickets. You need to buy food here. It ends up being a nice sum of euro you spend at the end of the day. So that's why, you know, consider the option to bring food and drinks in a backpack. The area we're at now is of course Kradinski Bug, which is kind of the main attraction, which is the main thing people go to Krka for, is to see Kradinski Bug. When you get to this place here, if you entered the same place as we did, came with the boat from Skradin, when you get here, of course, what I mentioned before, you have the restaurant, you have all the booths, you can get refreshments here. But basically also from here you have to make a decision. Do you want to go left or do you want to go right? So you have the option to go around the park and taking the left side around here, and you will basically come down over the bridge at the waterfall at the end, or go the other way around. Today we are going to take the right side here, because I think this is the most interesting one, and also for those who decide only to basically not to do the whole round trip, I think you should always take this one. So the Kradinski Bug waterfalls is of course the main attraction at Krka, what everybody wants to see. You have all the waterfalls cascading down. I think it's a total fall from the first waterfall down to the bottom. It's around 50 meters they're cascading down. We will walk up to the right side here. You will see them from the side also, but you see amazing view, you know, or scenery to look at. And when swimming was allowed, there used to be a barrier in the middle here going over, and you were basically allowed to swim on this side and on the other side here. So I've done that many times, but as I said, no more swimming allowed. The building you see out here, over here, is a hydro plant called Yaruga. It's actually one of the first Yaruga was put into commission I think in 1895, so it was actually the first of its type in the world, although there was another one which was put into commission in Niagara Falls 2 days before, but that one was never connected, and or actually that one was not connected to them and actually supplying power where it was used before a year later. This one was commissioned in 1895, or basically taken into operation, and immediately there was a transmission network sending the power to Šibenik, and it was lighting the street lights, and there was one factory also getting power from this one. So it was the first in the world. Of course, it's been rebuilt, it's been increased in the amount of power it can generate several times, but it is basically a functioning hydro plant you see here. And it is one of 5 hydro plants on the Krka River, from its source till down here, and all the 5 of them I think are inside the national park. Let's continue our trip around. When you visit Krka, you of course need decent footwear. As you can see now, we are walking on wooden planks, but basically it will change as we go around in the park. Most of the part is wooden planks, but you also have a lot of steps you have to walk up. You have some places where there's dirt road, so it's kind of a mix. So make sure you don't come here in flip-flops or something like that. I would say that's not necessarily ideal. Okay, you can see over here how powerful the water comes down. And this is now here in a period where we haven't gotten too much rain lately. And you see the power of the stream. Then imagine coming here, you know, after there's been snow in the Dinar Mountain and the snow is melting and all the water which would be generated. The power would just be enormous, and you will basically, where I'm standing now, the water would go out here. So you can also see on the roots on the trees, if you look down, there basically all the dirt around is flushed away. That's simply from when there's all this water here. See over there how the roots are completely, everything is washed away around it. And the tree is still standing. It's kind of impressive. Wow. It's like a flying tree almost. Amazing. And of course you are supposed to stay on the trails most of the time. Now we went a bit off, and I must confess, hopefully nobody is gonna come after me when saying it. I've been walking up here several times, but today we're gonna be polite visitors, so we're gonna follow the trails most of the time. See how the main waterfall comes down there, but also you have over to the side, you have another streams coming down, so when you get to the top level, you see basically the area where there's water is very, very wide, and all this flows down and kind of centers when you get down here to Skaradinsky Buk. Have a look at this. Absolutely amazing. So what we see here was one of the some of the mechanics from one of the, basically from the first installation at the hydro plant Yaruga. So this part is quite old, but of course has been replaced with newer mechanics since then. Yeah, and I think Ante Subuk, he was one of the main guys driving this. I think he was actually the mayor or something like that in Šibenik at the time. See, this is photos, how it looks inside. Well, it looked inside at that time. 28th of August was the date. Of course, when you climb up, you have multiple viewpoints, but here you kind of pretty good see how far Skaradinsky Buk, the waterfall, stretches. You see all the way up there is the last ones, and then basically down. So, really amazing nature scenery. Wow, amazing, just amazing. Look, the speed comes down with the water in the corner over there. No wonder you're not allowed to swim here. This is actually one place which we can't see today because it's closed. This is Burnham, an old military camp which had an amphitheater, and really also interesting place to see, but it's probably from Skaradinsky Buk, it's completely in the northern part of the Kyrgyz National Park, so maybe 30 kilometers away from here, but really worth visiting. Last time I visited, they were heavily digging out all the Roman remains. So it's basically also an archaeological site, so it's also something to consider. If you don't go there, you can always watch our video from Salona, which is of course the Roman city next to Split. You will see basically how a Roman city looked that time. So now we are coming up to what is called the Etno Village inside the national park, and here you have various shops. You can see there's a t-shirt shop here. You have various smaller, I don't know if you would call them museums, but you can basically, there's places where you can go and see how the clothing was back in the days. You see here we have basically, this used to be the blacksmith. Probably not the most easy job to have at that times, but somebody had to do it. Yeah, and in here is the weavers. So you can see in there how they produced the clothes back in the days. And of course in the summer you also have restaurant here. So you can actually sit, there will be tables down here behind. You can sit out here, they will have sunshades and these kind of stuff. So also a nice place if you are up for grabbing a lunch. It was like back in the days on any other river which had a enough stream, people would put in water mills back in the days. Here they didn't do it as extreme as in Rastorge, if you've seen our video from there, but there's actually 2 water mills on the Kurga River. One of them is here, so we're gonna have a look at it. And basically they use that to mainly grinding corn. Go down here. You see the grinding stones, some of them are situated here. And here's a donkey. Actually, I've been here where there was a real donkey, so they changed that a bit. But here we are gonna go into the water mill. I don't know why it's not running now. I've been here several times where they were spinning and making a lot of noise. So no reason why they stopped it, maybe because it's out in season. So you can imagine the water comes in here spinning the wheel and then stuff is happening. No, we will actually go this way here. People can get a better idea. Information center here where you can see about different parts of Kurga. You see the different waterfalls mentioned. I'll tell you a bit about them later, so you don't have to read about it. You can just listen to what I have to say. Smarty is the book. So maybe I will just take this map, and you see the yellow line is basically the one we are following today, which is kind of a round trip around the Skradinsky Buk waterfalls, which you see coming down here. So, and although Skradinski Buk is definitely the most impressive and the most visited place inside the park, because the waterfall is very special. It is runs over quite a long part down here, so it looks amazing. But this is only one of 7 waterfalls on the Kurga River, and all of them are inside the national park. So you can actually visit 7 other places where you can see waterfalls. There's actually some of them, if you look at the individual height of the waterfalls, there's some of them which is further up the river, which are actually higher. The highest one is around 30 meters, and that's maybe around 25 kilometers from here. That's the, I always forgot the name, Mihailo Vats waterfall. And that one is a bit hard to access, but it is actually quite good water. I've been there too. I think Kurga is one of the special, it's a very unique nature place in terms of how diverse it is. I think there's a total of, in the whole national park, there's a total of 1,100 different plant species, which is more than Plitvice in any other place. There's 200 and I think 25 different birds, as I mentioned earlier, so just absolutely amazing. There's a lot of different fish. I think around 30 different fish lives in the Kurga River, maybe 28 or something like that. And some of them are endemic to this place. So there's, I think they call it a brown trout, and some other species you only find here. Then there's 22 reptiles living in the area. So watch your step when you walk around, and just an amazing nature. No, so basically in relation to when to visit Kurga and how much time to spend, I mean, everything is open. If you do the shortest possible trip, is basically this with Skradinski Buk, you would need 2.5 hours. So if you come with the bus from Split, Zadar or the other places connected by a bus, you can definitely do a trip in 1 day without any problem. If you want to see the whole park, 1 day is a bit tricky. You see, we are going to spend a whole day here in the park today, and I'm 100% sure we're not going to manage to see everything. So in that case, if you really want to explore Kurga, you need 2 days. That's for sure. But the good thing is you have plenty of accommodation in the area. You have campsites, you have hotels, all kinds of stuff. So you can easily find that and stay overnight in the area, and then spend 2 days on exploring the park. And if I was gonna do 2 days, I would definitely, what I would do the first day would do Skradinski Buk. Then I would take the boat up to Visovac and see that part, and basically maybe even Roski Slap, and go back here and maybe stay overnight in Skradin, and then the next day go and explore the monasteries. We have another monastery, a Serbian Orthodox monastery, which is very interesting. I've also been there a few times. The church is looks amazing. And then you have Burnham, as I mentioned earlier, the Roman military camp with an amphitheater, also worth visiting. And then plus the other waterfalls, which are really hard to get to. So there's plenty. There's also an ethno camp much further up of the village. So there's plenty to see if you want to do. If you want to spend 2 days here, you wouldn't have too much time if you have 2 days away. So 25 meter deep. I wouldn't expect that. Yeah, quite impressive. Wow. Lake over Pila. And when you're in a spot like this, when they put the bridge in the middle, you basically see water coming out to the left, to the right, from everywhere. So this is what I mentioned, that it's quite wide area covered with water here up at the top. You kind of, when you walk up here, you really get the impression and understand why so much water flows down to Skradinski Buk. Off-road again. As far as I recall it, there's a viewing point down here. But don't hang me up in case I'm wrong with that. Well, they closed it off here and somebody destroyed the sign, no climbing. Probably a good idea to respect that. So we can't see the water from here. So look how it is here. This is how all the stairs used to be. One wooden plank and dirt. I think they cut off all these parts. Maybe there's actually a spot over here. Yes, I think so. Perfect. So this was actually the viewing platform I was thinking at when we walked down there. I just couldn't recall which trail it was I had to take. But here basically we see from the other side, you can see the Etne village in the background. So the big question is, how many waterfalls are there in total, if you count all the small ones? That's the question, If half a meter is enough, the smaller ones you see, or if it needs to be above a certain amount of centimeters. So the $1 million question, should you do Plitvice or Kyrka? If you had to choose, I would say find a way to do both, because if you've seen our Plitvice video, absolutely fantastic, beautiful. As you see in this video, the place is amazing. So I don't think you can say, balance one against the other. I think you should really, if you have the option, go and visit both. So in places like this, you have these info boards, so you can read about birds, fish, amphibians, mammals, and other things, inside the park. So if you haven't studied it prior to your arrival and you want a break, maybe, stop here and read a bit about it. So now we are basically above Skradinski Buk, but on the opposite side. So we're just going to go down here we can have a look at it. You can see the bridge we came over at the beginning, and basically here you have all the waterfalls coming down. And the hydro plant in the background. Yeah. Yeah. So they decided to make it a code for it. Probably, yeah. But I've never seen any other tree having this around. If you notice, we are basically back at the square where I said you had two ways, go left or right. Now we did the round trip around Skradinski Buk. It took us a total of 1.5 hours from we were here last. And of course, as you noticed on the footage, we are now doing it outside of the season, so we didn't have to hassle with a lot of people walking around. We didn't stop for coffee. We didn't really went into all the workshops at the Edna Village. So if you add all these things and maybe a cup of coffee, you probably will have 2 to 2.5 hours to get around here. And then you need to count the boat trips and everything. So from leaving Skradin till you're back, I would say thumbs rule, 3.5 hours you should count for the trip. So now we're on the way back from the boat from Skradinski Buk to Skradin. And when we get back to Skradin, we are basically gonna drive up to a place where you can take a small ferry to Visovac. And if there's time, we are gonna go and see the monastery over there, or go to the small island where you have the Visovac monastery. If not, we're gonna continue to Roski Slap, but we don't know exactly how it looks with time now until we get up there. And also it depends when the small boat is sailing. But anyway, when we arrive back in Skradin, it should be around 12, and we left with the boat at 9 o'clock, so we spent 3 hours in total. So finally back in Skradin. Man, the weather is fantastic.
Voilà, adieu.